Imagine being at a local yoga studio or gym and somebody asks you what you do, and all of a sudden something happens. You start over explaining yourself, or maybe you go a little bit vague, or you change the subject, or maybe you just go quiet. And afterwards, you think to yourself, I know my work. I know that my work changes lives. So why can I not explain that in the moment? And I remember being at a party once where somebody came up to me and they asked me what I did. And I explained it in one sentence. And it felt like before I'd even finished that sentence, she was asking me how she could work with me. And she became a long-term client of mine. And this has happened to me on more than one occasion. The thing is that it's not just the words that got those people to move, it's the energy behind the words. And a lot of people think that this is just an online problem, but the truth is it never was. If you have ever over-explained your work, if you've ever overthought a caption for a social media post or gone a bit quiet, then this video is for you. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why your message is just a fraction of the fix. Hi, I'm Taryn and I've spent over 14 years building businesses, being in the online space. I've been supporting coaches and practitioners who are really good at what they do, but they struggle to get that across in the online space or offline. And I've helped hundreds of women go from being invisible to being fully expressed. And what I've seen is that it's often the same underlying patterns. And often these patterns get mislabeled as being a messaging problem or being a niching problem or being a confidence problem, when a lot of the time it's none of those things. What I see is these women going months and months and months trying to fix the words behind their message. So they might be updating their bios, their websites, their sales pages, their copywriting courses, and they still experience that same gap. And this is evidence that it's not just the messaging. The words are not always the problem. It's what's behind the words that is causing the issue. And so I've got a free visible masterclass that goes deeper into this, and you can find the link in the comments. But for now, let's get into it. Often when women first come to me, they think they've got a messaging problem where they have tried all the things. They've niched down, they've shifted their positioning, they've rewritten their bios, maybe they've even hired a messaging coach, and their message is still feeling a little bit messy or muddled, or it feels like it's not landing with people. And when we dig in, what we find most of the time is that the message is usually fine. They often know who they are speaking to. They often know who they help and how they help them and the transformation that they're taking people through. And so the problem is that the message is getting filtered on the way out of them saying it. And there's this internal edit that's going on where they're making it sound a bit smaller, they're softening it, they're making it feel safer, they don't want to be too much. And so this leads to them overthinking, over-explaining, or sometimes not even talking about it at all, to the point where they might ghost their social media audience for months at a time. And the truth is that the message isn't lost, it's just being blocked. And this shows up like writing a social media caption 12 times and then deleting it in the end, or putting a post out that sounds informative but it doesn't really sound like you, or out there that gets saved, it gets likes even, but it doesn't get DMs, it doesn't get people interested in your work. And so I have a client, H, who is a seasoned entrepreneur, and when we started working together, she was getting a ton of referrals. They weren't converting, and every call she was getting was saying, that sounds really great, I'll come back to you, and then nothing. And she had a really good offer. She had real results, she had years of experience, but there was something in the way that she was showing up and presenting her work that wasn't landing for people. She went from 0 conversions to 6 clients signed and 4 in progress by the time we finished working together. And it wasn't because she found better words, it was because we cleared what was behind the words. And the thing is, most messaging advice skips the real cause. And there's a few different layers that I wanted to speak to. So the first layer is the subconscious. This is where we have our old limiting beliefs that create resistance in our body and hold us back. And this might sound like, if I say this too directly, I'll be judged. Or if I put myself forward, I'll lose people. And so what happens is that the message becomes softened or generalized, and it loses that specific edge that makes people feel like that's exactly me. The second layer is the body, because visibility is a physical experience. It's not just mental, it's not just in the head. And we are human beings in a physical body, right? And what happens is, especially if you are showing up in a new way, or you have past experiences where visibility made you feel rejected or judged or embarrassed in some way, then your nervous system is going to read it as a threat, and it's going to tighten and it's going to resist. And what comes out is this version of ourselves that is trying to manage that response to keep us safe, not the fully present version. And that's where the over-explaining comes from. That's where the rambling comes from. That's where the hiding comes from. Because you can have the perfect message and a nervous system that doesn't let you say it right. The third layer is self-doubt. And so these women believe in their work. They have seen it change lives. And it's the gap between the clarity that they get when they hold a session and the clarity they get when they are under pressure. And a new bio is not going to fix it. A better niche is not going to fix that, because the block isn't in the words. It's upstream, it's behind the words. And when you work at that level, something completely different starts to change. Let me share with you what happens on the other side of doing this work. This could look like sharing one sentence at a networking event and people leaning in. Or it could look like putting a post out, just sharing something honest and specific, and getting a DM that says, "I'm all in, when do we start?" So one of my clients, Ashley, who's an occupational therapist, she was feeling stuck and trapped in a high pressure leadership role. We supported her with doing the inner work alongside doing some business strategy, and she ended up leaving her job and scoring 3 long-term contracts that brought in more income than her salary in a senior leadership role. And she also freed up 2 days of her week to focus on building her own private practice, where she brought in 3 new clients. And she said to me, "My central nervous system feels so much more at peace now." And that didn't happen because she became really good at messaging. It happened because we helped her clear the way and what was behind the words. Because when the block clears, then the message finds its own way out naturally. And a couple more clients said, so Melissa said she signed her highest paying client the day that she stopped performing. And Karis said that selling became an exchange of energy rather than a performance, and her visibility skyrocketed. So I want to just guide you through 3 questions that are going to be more useful to you than a messaging audit. And I really want you to take your time with these questions, so feel free to pause the video and just notice what comes up for you. The first question is, when you talk about your work, online or in person, are you saying what's true for you, or are you saying what feels safe? Question 2 is there one clear, direct sentence that describes what you do that you've never quite said without over-explaining or adding qualifiers to it? Question 3 is, when you imagine talking about your work from a place where nothing is blocking you, what would you say? And so that last question is really gold, because this work is creating the conditions that allow that version of you to show up more consistently. If this video resonated, then the Visible Masterclass is the natural next step. Inside this masterclass, you'll find how you're naturally wired to be seen through my 5 psychology-backed visibility archetypes. You'll also discover why visibility has felt heavier than it should and how to start shifting that. And you'll leave with one small next step that fits your unique nervous system and not somebody else's blueprint. The link is in the description. It's free. It takes 2 minutes to register. And I wanted to just remind you that the work that you do is worth being heard clearly. And the version of you that can say it simply, directly, and without filtering, she's already there. So thank you so much for staying until the end. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.